Center and the Department of Emergency Management staff have been working quite closely with the building inspector, local fire protection districts, environmental health, public works, and Caltrans to allow people to go back into the areas that have been evacuated. And they do so very thoroughly and very sorry, I'm struggling with words right now. I'm so tired. Diligently. While also at the same time assessing damages to private infrastructure and public infrastructure to help us qualify for that additional state and federal funding. And so we met with the Director of Recovery and the FEMA Region 9 Administrator earlier on in the week to really explain what it is that our community has experienced and the losses that they've experienced for several weeks now, and likely for the next several years. While the emergency might be over, the real work starts now, and it starts in partnership with our state and federal agencies. So with that, I will provide a quick update on our local assistance center, and then I'll hand it over to them. But essentially, the county is working to stand up a local assistance center for individuals and households and local businesses who've been impacted to access state and federal recovery resources. We're looking to have that open at the Ag Commissioner's Office conference room. We're aiming for this weekend, and when we have a firm date on when we can get all of the agencies there, as well as the operational hours finalized, we'll let everyone know. But yeah, that'll be coming this weekend. So we're very excited to have these resources in county and in person. I know in the past we've done more virtual local assistance centers. This really is a face-to-face opportunity for people to ask questions and access resources.
Kelsey, can you tell us a little bit more about the local assistance center? I think people may wonder, well, if it's just my house, I just have damage. There's a lot more to recovery than perhaps just, maybe home repairs. And so people really should come and find out what they don't know they need.
Exactly. So some of the agencies that you'll see there are FEMA, specifically for financial assistance and referral to other government programs. You'll see CalOES, the California Department of Public Health, in case you've lost any vital records, the Department of Insurance, the Employment Development Department, Social Services, the Clerk, Recorder, and Assessor, Environmental Health if you have questions about food, water safety, any hazardous material safety, and resource manager, the Housing and Community Development Agency for permitting, planning, building. So if you had a damaged structure, or if you have a significant amount of mud on your property and you're worried that you are borderline grading, those are real questions that you would ask of these agencies that'll be there. So yeah, we have a couple of others that we're still trying to hone in on, like the Monterey Community Foundation, the Mexican Consulate, Economic Development, and the Ag Commissioner, but essentially those are the types of agencies you'll see. So whatever question it is that you have, even if you don't know if it's a problem yet, come prepared and bring them in your thinking cap. But yeah, there's a lot of resources available.
Thank you, Kelsey. And we're very pleased to have a representative from FEMA on with us to share a little bit more information that the designation really does help residents. And is it Kalo Henry? Am I saying your name correctly? You're on mute.
Yes, that's correct. Can you all hear me?
I can. Thank you so much for being on short notice. A lot of people here are wondering, what will happen now that we have this federal disaster declaration with FEMA, and what that means for individuals and families.
Okay, yes. So what that means is there will be federal funding available for those who may have damages to their home, as well as some other needs assistance. Financially, we can provide, if found eligible, we can provide funding for lodging expenses, like for those who may have evacuated their home and went to a hotel. We may be able to provide home repair assistance, home replacement assistance for those who have lost their home, like totally. And then also we can provide rental assistance for those who may have found a temporary rental home or apartment. Also, we have some items that we can assist with by way of other needs assistance. Will be funeral assistance. I know there were some fatalities, and we can assist with those if it was caused by the disaster. Also, medical and dental assistance, childcare, if they were unable, they had individuals had to acquire a child care assistant or whatever the case may be. If found eligible, we can help with that. Moving and storage, if they had to move their items, we can assist with that along with some miscellaneous items. But the first step is we ask everyone to please register. That's the first way we can find out if they're eligible. And these assistance can be provided, financial assistance, up to 18 months from the date of declaration. All right, and in the chat, I did see a question came through while I was waiting. It was saying, how long does it take to receive funds? So there's not an actual time frame you can give. The time frame varies on processing. We have to receive all verifications, paperwork, look at the home and things of that nature. And but the quickest way would be electronic funds transfer. Otherwise, we have to mail the check, put it in the mail. So pending any questions, that's all I had.
I would want to ask for people who may wonder what is eligible, because you were describing really a wide variety of eligible costs, but people may wonder, they may have something that happened that they wonder if it's eligible. Where would they get that information?
So we do have a website, FEMA.gov, and if I can, I could send a link to whomever, but there's some information there in our individual assistance program policy guide. But we also are standing up disaster recovery centers, DRC, where they can physically go into an office or a location and speak to a representative such as myself, and they can answer those questions. We also have, or will have soon, some FEMA individuals that will canvass the community. So if they see FEMA representatives in their community, they can stop, ask questions. But we definitely will want them to come to the Disaster Recovery Center once it's open in the county.
So the Disaster Recovery Center you described, that would be in Monterey County. Would you have one in Monterey County?
Correct. One will be, I don't think it's, because it just came online last night. One hasn't been stood up, realized at this time, but we are working on it. But they will be able to physically go there and speak to a live representative.
Thank you so much for coming on today and just providing a little information. I think for people who've been impacted by the storm, they're not quite sure, what's available to them, and just getting some information really helps get their recovery process going. And maybe we'll see you in Monterey County.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And now we'd like to bring in some representatives from our health department and the Department of Emergency Management to talk about assistance programs that have been ongoing and will be ongoing for communities who are returning to their homes after evacuation. We've got Vincente Lara and Krista Honey from the health department and Daniel Gonzalez from the Department of Emergency Management to talk about what is going on in these communities. Krista, do you want to lead us off?
I will definitely be happy to lead us off. I was also, before this, talking to Daniel, because being part of the Office of Department of Emergency Management, both Vicente and I are in the health equity, or the equity officer position, which is a newish position. And I do want him to frame it for those on the line, because they might not be familiar with that.
Well, Daniel, now they pass it to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So the equity officer position is a position that we have added to the management team in the EOC to essentially advise the the emergency manager in terms of equity issues that the community might be facing, looking at areas of need, areas where the community might need support, language access, um, uh, special additions to potentially translations, interpretation, and during meetings. We have seen throughout the press conferences that we've had in the county that we have been able to connect translators and interpreters to the work and to so the community can receive the information in the language and they have access to everything that is going out. So part of the idea behind the equity officers looking at the challenges that the community has, that are we have a very diverse community, and making sure that we are addressing some of those needs or all of those needs if possible, so that they can have access to information and they can have access to resources like everybody else does in the community.
And then while we were doing that, we were also getting feedback from community members, especially because I've also been involved in the VITA project, the Virus Integrated Distribution of Aid. We have a number of community health workers and the organizations we've been involved in to get feedback from, people more with the boots on the ground, what they were hearing from the community and potential needs. And that led us to also start working on thinking about our most vulnerable communities that were feeling the effects of this particular disaster, and when they were getting ready to come back to their communities, thinking about, in this instance for San Ardo, water and hot food as well as dry food, and then in Pajaro as well, hot food and dry food. And so we're working with different partners to get both of those things happening. And then down in San Ardo for the water, Vicente especially is also focusing on that.
Will the efforts that you've been making in San Ardo and Pajaro, we know last night in Pajaro, some local restaurants came and brought food to kind of welcome people back and help them out because they've been away, from their homes. But, what will they need in the next few weeks, and how will this assistance continue?
That's an important question. So we know, and in talking with Padre Victor and Padre Manuel at the Church of the Assumption for Pajaro, and also with Casa del Cultura, sorry about that pronunciation, that we're hearing about, the dry foods, the groceries, to get food into the homes for people to prepare is important. So we're working on more food distribution for that, to support that. It's just an example of how we really want to hear from the community about what they're needing. And that's what we are hearing for Pajaro. But the hot food is when you're first coming back, and whether there's food there or not in the kitchen, and they were away for a week. And so we want to also make sure that they're not trying to cook with food that maybe does need to be disposed of. And that's where we were doing a few days of hot food. And yes, last night in Pajaro was amazing. And we had a great donation from El Cherito here in Salinas. And we're working with them as well as Meals on Wheels and a few other taquerias for, cobbling together a variety of burritos that we'll be giving out tonight as well.
And just to add to that a little bit, some of the other concerns that we're, learning about in terms of, the conversations that we're having with some of the community partners that we've been working with for the last couple of years, specifically those who have really helped with the COVID response, really helping us with the response now. There is a lot of anxiety around just the economic impact that residents are going to have to be that they will face in the coming months. A lot of the agricultural fields here in the Salinas Valley were flooded. So there's a big question in terms of how that's going to impact work in the spring. So these are some of the concerns that residents are thinking about right now. And, we're going to try to support as much as possible and really working and leveraging our partnerships with our community partners. I see Daniel came off mute, so you might want to add to that as well.
I just want to add, that this, in terms of the equity position and the work that the Department of Emergency Management is doing to come closer to the community, is definitely this was definitely been a milestone in terms of outreach. The amount of outreach that has happened to our impacted communities has been extraordinary. We've had support from all of the community. Our supervisors have gotten engaged. I think it really shows where we want to go in terms of community engagement and the trust we definitely, continue to build with our community. so that when events like this happen in the future, and the one that we're recovering from now, we have that connection and that reach with the community. So we're definitely looking forward to continuing this work and strengthening the connection that we have with the resources in the community.
And speaking of strengthening those relationships, if people have questions, so say they've returned home and they have questions, where should they go? Are there people within the community that they can reach out to for advice? Can they get connected, with DEM? What do you advise for people?
We have the two. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Krista.
No, go right ahead, Daniel.
Oh, I was just going to say 211 is definitely a great resource for the community to call and get information about resources available and the state of affairs in terms of where we are. And they can definitely visit our website, the DEM website, OES website, to get information of the current status of the event. And Krista, do you have anything else you would like to add?
For people who are connected with community partners and may or may not have that digital access, we definitely are recommending they call those partners. And then many of them are letting us know about questions that are coming in so we can then produce materials to get out and get answers to questions. So it is an ongoing process and for improvement as we hear from the community.
Thank you. Is there any I want to give you guys the last word. Is there anything else you want to share with us today about anything coming up or anything you want the community to know?
Well, there's been many partners. We probably haven't mentioned all of them, and they're all amazing. And we definitely are trying to get shout outs out there to them. I know that our Joint Information Center was putting out a big thank you, but we'd like to add to that. And if we missed anyone, let us know so we can get you listed. And then for getting information out, we are noticing some other even state webinars that are happening. We're looking at trying to have a few more local ones here, and so stay tuned for that through all of our social media channels.
And just to add, I mean, it has been really, I've just been really impressed with how much support from agencies and community groups and local businesses. There's a lot of energy around trying to support residents who've been impacted by the storm. So, a big thank you to all that support. And just a last reminder, again, we'll be out at the Assumption Church in Pajaro this afternoon at 5 p.m. Handing out some hot meals in Pajaro. And if folks who've been impacted by the storms, want to get some food, we'll be out there providing that.
We are really hoping to focus on the Pajaro residents for that, especially because for many of them, again, they weren't able to be home for a week.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Thanks everyone for joining us on this news briefing for this Wednesday. Our next briefing is next Wednesday. We'll see you then.